Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to
Welcome to
Philosophy.
Colossus Science. Yeah.
My name is Ruby, and
And I'm
that's
Nathan.
and today we're going to talk about science communication.
I feel like this is a very meta stream because we're talking about like research that's been done about science communication on our stream in which we communicate
About
science.
science. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it also like comes from like guilt. It's like is
Hmm.
it our fault there's so much science denying and fake news and do you know what I mean? Like there's so much misinformation out
Yeah.
there. Is it because we didn't do a good enough job communicating it?
Hmm.
And like I was just
Like us personally or like scientists in general or both.
both. I mean, there's one
Hmm.
part where I'm like, I'm a scientist. How much time am I using in my daily life to communicate science? And how much, is my community doing it? And then how much
Hmm.
is like a field doing it in general? Like, are we doing good? Are we doing terrible?
Hmm.
Generally, I think we're doing kind of not great. Like that's
Yeah.
depressing. Um, because like look what's happening, right? Like if we were doing it better, this would not be happening. And like just really going through like all the ways that it could go wrong, it can go right, where our intentions are, how it could go wrong, like what like internet things AI could change about science communication, um all kinds of um things that could like change up
Yeah.
the landscape in the near future. Like how are we going to move on in the future and not go into the dark place, which is where
Right.
a lot of us
Where we
can end
all
up.
die.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So the main way, the beginning of this topic was basically my partner and I were like, we have a date night together. Let's watch a nature documentary. So we pulled out our favorite nature documentary, and which is David Attenborough, and we sat there, and I was like, oh my gosh, so cool, ocean, so cool, so cool. And then it was like, and then we've been trawling the seas, and like it is a checked way. We're like basically flattening the landscape of the water, and then we were just sat there and like watched video after video of like the deserted bottom of the ocean that was like previously really beautiful. Like the first three-quarters of the movie was like beautiful this, look at these cool fish, look at these cool coral. And then it's like, now look what happens 1 hour after you trawl it, now what looks like 2 weeks after you trawl it, 1 year after. And we're just like sat there like traumatized and being sad.
so I
And I
was
was like,
gonna say, yeah. So you're like, okay, this is really cool, but then it got really depressing.
yeah. And like I'm not an environmental scientist, but I don't do marine biology. I don't do it. Like it must be so depressing if like, let's say you're studying a shark that lives in these areas and like someone takes like it's like we take a lot of care to control like our animals environments, like so we can study like
Mhm.
control everything and like study things. Like imagine like in the middle of your experiment, like your 6 month long experiments, taking like time points for like the animals like feeding or whatever marine biologists do, and then like suddenly like some like boat just comes through and trawls through the
And
middle.
just like takes all the animals out.
Yeah, and just like
Yeah.
flattens them, takes out the food fishes, and then like just dumps all of the rest of them, the dead bodies.
That, yeah.
And
I
I
was
was
gonna
just
say, I wonder, like, do you think that this is like a thing that's just like as we became adults, this has changed, or do you think it's like a broader cultural change? Because I feel like there was this interesting thing. Like, I remember like where science communication was more this like Bill Nye, like, wow, I wonder like how birds manage to fly when they don't have like engines. And it was like it was very much just about like the universe is cool, and it feels like more recently like it's become a more like we need to do science communication because we're facing these existential threats that like people need to know about or we're going to die. um, I mean, do you think
yeah,
that's like been a cultural change, or is that? I mean, it's like it's happened before. I mean, like there was concerns about like global cooling before, like in like the 1970s, there was a lot of concern about like population and food shortages. So it's not like this is like a totally new thing. I
Yeah,
guess like also nuclear warfare. I mean,
you
I
know,
think like
so when we were kids, I remember like all the news and stuff about the ozone. Like we're like, oh, there's gonna be a
mhm,
hole, and then it like fixed. It didn't fix itself. We fixed it. Like we stopped
we
doing
fixed
certain
it.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't know if we like celebrated that enough to like
yeah.
excite people that hey, our human actions can actually change things enough for them to be like, let's keep doing the thing so that the next, apocalyptic thing that's coming, we can actually change. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't celebrate
Yeah,
the
I feel
wins.
like you
It kind of
asked
had like
most,
a petered out, like.
yeah. And like in part that's because of the science. I mean, so like I feel like when you look at the data on ozone, I mean, like what you see is really that kind of like it took a few decades for us to actually just be like, okay, the ozone hole has stopped kind of systematically increasing in size because there's a lot of noise. And now it's like it's stayed about the same size for a while. Now it's maybe getting a bit smaller. So it's like you don't get this really dramatic headline. I think that's just like, okay, the ozone has repaired itself just because of like the nature of how the atmospheric physics work. But it is interesting. Like I feel like if you asked most people like, okay, what actually ended up happening with the ozone, like most people wouldn't know. Um I feel like yeah, I feel like people wouldn't know like, okay, did it get better? Did it keep getting worse? Is it the same?
Yeah,
It
like
does seem like it's getting better. Yeah, but it
yeah.
it yeah,
I feel
it's
like we
we
should
never
have
really followed up
celebrated
on
that
it.
win. We should have
Uh-huh.
celebrated that win as a planet. And like that was like I was like, is that on us? I think it might be on the climate scientists to be like, yo, we did it. Good job, y'all.
Yeah,
Stop using those chemicals actually worked. Like, whoa, bamboozled.
especially like when we talk about global warming, I feel like one of the reasons that some people are kind of hesitant towards it is not because they don't see it as a problem, but like they don't see it as a tractable problem. Like they're just
Yeah,
like,
well,
okay, well, this is gonna suck regardless of whatever we do.
yeah, well, they actually did a whole study on like doomerism and like
Uh-huh.
how it's depressing and demoralizing and it actually decreases people's like output. And if you calculate output as, planting trees, which is what they did in the study, they found
Hmm.
that people who like were like inundated with enormous stakes of climate crisis information like it's going to be horrible, everything's the worst, doom gloom. They actually it actually backfires to know like to be given that message over and over again. Like they stop
Huh.
thinking
Hmm.
that their individual contributions could be could even move the needle at all, and so then they stop
Hmm.
doing it. And so that backfired, right? So originally the study was like, hey, like how do you mobilize people? And they're like, we need to get this information out, the doom and gloom information. And so actually that does work. You do need a like amount of doom and gloom to like to get the
Hmm.
people like
Yeah,
not excited, but like to mobilize people. But
like
like
to let them know. Yeah.
yeah, but the constant stream of sad negative things could actually backfire and make it worse because you'll just become defeatist, right? It's kind of like learned
Uh-huh.
helplessness. Like when you realize that whatever you do it can't do it won't help, people are just like, ah, whatever, fuck it, like let's just do whatever and live our lives. Like that's problematic too, right? Like there's like that's a backfired science communication event, right? Like everyone
So
knows.
like yeah. So like what was the other condition in this study? So like one was like, okay, you made people scared about global warming. What were the other conditions? Like was it just telling them less about it or
I think they let's see. Let me find this article. Here is the article. Uh, hold on. Let's wait. Can we talk about something while I find this article because I
sure.
didn't post it
Yeah.
into our stream
Because I feel
link.
like I was gonna say I feel like that is the interesting question to me is kind of like, okay, so what is the better way to do it? Is it that we like highlight more cases where like is it that we try and make it less negative? Is it that we try and like talk about some more of the better outcomes? Is it just that we talk about it less? Like I think that to me that is the thing that I'm the most curious about. Um,
Here is the paper. I will drop it in the
but yeah, I
chat.
think it. But
Uh,
like I was saying, oh, did you drop it? Let me.
oh, sorry, I dropped it in the private chat. My
Yeah.
bad. Um,
Oh, no worries.
the title is called "Addressing Climate Change with Behavioral Science: A Global Intervention Tournament in 63 Countries." So it's like the
It's a
largest.
tournament, huh?
Yeah, it's like
Wait, so is
what
it?
worked, what didn't. It's like a meta analysis.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I think I remember seeing people talk about this
yeah, and
actually.
like different kinds of interventions. So they like block them out into like letters to the future versions, or like collective actions, dynamic social norms. Like they grouped basically all the
Yeah.
different ways that people have like um communicated
I think
science or
we're
like
into
climate
this
change
because
was happening.
we talked about it in our lab meeting, is why. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
you talked about it in your lab meeting at your
because
job.
someone in my lab developed this intervention where it's like you have an AI animal, and then the AI animal talks with you about like how climate change is affecting it.
Yeah.
Um, and they were looking at so we were thinking about okay, how likely to be effective is this? Um,
Yeah. And like I had like almost 60,000 participants from 63 countries, and then they test all different ways of like emphasizing the scientific consensus about climate change, which just means it's happening, it's bad, we need
mhm.
to do shit about it. um and like they did it in different ways, right? You can either say like widespread concern of all the humans, you can emphasize the consequences in that particular region, like wildfires and floods. You can try and like emphasize, writing a letter to yourself in the future about like what we did to plan for climate change, like
Hmm.
things like that, like all different kinds of interventions. um is this in Science Advances? This is the paper,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So this is in this is the bioarchive, sorry, psych archive version, but it's now accepted in Science Advances. Um so they gave all these like different versions, and they were like, which one of these communication styles mobilized the most people, and then which ones resulted in actions. And it was kind of cool because in using this kind of meta-analysis, they actually found out that the doom and gloom method eventually backfired because when it came to the amount of effort in behaviors that humans performed, they did less because they were like full in the dark they were in a dark place
Interesting.
basically. Yeah, so like they would do less tree planting, less recycling, things like that, if they had like
Yeah.
moved all the way to the full doom gloom.
Let
So
me pull
there's
up this paper or this figure actually so people can see because I think this is interesting. So this is what you were talking about, right? Is the
Yeah.
um,
It's like the
so
belief to the like belief, policy, and then action, like at the end, at the
mhm.
back end. And so you can see these people like, they believe it. So like we correctly they believe it. But if we don't do any policy changes and it's just like talked about a lot, so basically it goes in social media and it gets like super sad and depressing. And you look at that pink line, right? I think that's like
Right.
the
So this pink this pink
the
blob is for if you just make people feel negative emotions about climate change. And so
yeah.
that was the least effective at getting people to plant trees, I
Yeah,
guess.
but like on the same at the same time, it was the most effective of getting it out there in the share part, right? Which is like
Yeah.
social media, like it got people aware of the issue. So like the problem is like you
Mhm.
can't just be like aware of the issue, like you actually need to also
Like to
like
do
do
things. Yeah.
actions.
Uh-huh. It's
um
interesting. And so it looked like talking about the scientific consensus on climate change and also like a moral argument and writing, or no, it's the dark blue, I guess. So dynamic social norm.
yeah, I suppose
They talk about what these are too. So dynamic social norms is just like telling people that kind of this is becoming more common to care about. Um, Negative emotions is a doom and gloom style of messaging, letter to future generations. So that's you have to
Did
write a
that do
letter.
okay? Hold on, let's look at
It
the
looks
graph
like
side by side.
that worked pretty well. So like
The letters
so
to the
that was
future.
so it didn't do that well at like planting trees, but it was also this so it was pretty good at belief. It was really good at policy, interestingly.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like trees is like that in the middle ground where it's like not too expensive to do. And then like other
right.
people who don't care about climate change also like trees. Like trees are great
Yeah, yeah,
for like
yeah.
being pleasant. It gives you more shade. There's like a whole episode on like the design of shade in neighborhoods in urban environments and how like rich people get more shade than not
Like
rich
it's
people.
and it's like not no one's really going to like object to it. Like there's all the people who are like, oh, I don't want to change my diet and like these climate change people are going to make us eat bugs or whatever. But no one is really like against planting trees. Like
Yeah,
everyone is just like, yeah, that seems
sounds great.
fine.
Let's plant some more trees.
I do wonder like, okay, is there like kind of a tension or a trade-off between this policy and the action ones though? Because like it almost seems like, okay, if you think of this as like a collective problem, then you're going to be high on policy. And
Then
then
I
like
won't do
the
as
number
much,
of
right?
trees planted, you're like, okay, that's just not the solution for this. Or vice versa. If you think it's like, okay, we all need to just go and plant a bunch of trees, then maybe you're like, okay, we don't need these policy solutions too. And it's
Yeah,
kind of interesting because you kind of see that it's like, okay, so this writing a letter to future generations, like that makes sense to me that that makes people support climate policies because it's kind of forcing them to think about like 20 years from now and like that's the time frame that policy is acting over, but then like
yeah.
it's not very effective at getting them to plant trees.
No, it looks like the most effective one is just scientific consensus. Is that right? Scientific consensus or
um
binding moral found.
yeah, so binding moral found is the most effective for tree. Also this color scheme is terrible.
I know. It's like
But
yellow. It's like poop yellow versus yellow
yeah.
yellow.
Um, oh yeah, so binding moral foundations. Okay, so it invokes authority, purity, and in-group loyalty. So it's based on it's basically making moral arguments. It's based on this thing called Mount moral foundations theory, which is like these are the main ways that people judge like moral, whether an action is moral or not.
Yeah, like if you're good
Um,
or bad. Like is this a
and so they
you know,
basically they picked three of the big like moral foundations that people have, and they said like because of these, like this is the right thing to do. Which
I
like
know. It's a little scary that it's like in group loyalty. Like, is this an American solution? Like that would work really well.
I mean I can see that like we have the whole like Johnny Appleseed thing, right?
Yeah,
Like
it
like we're like
totally works.
go plant trees like this guy.
Yeah.
Um,
My favorite
okay,
part of oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it kind of makes sense to me also that that moral argument is most effective at motivating like individual action.
Yeah. Because how susceptible our society is to religions.
Or just in general, like I think like if you're like I feel like if you tell someone that like addressing climate change is the moral thing to do, they will want to do something themselves directly to address it. So it's like if you tell them like, oh yeah, it's moral to care about taking CO2 out of the environment, that doesn't really motivate them to like share information about it so much, but then like you feel bad about yourself if you're not actually doing anything to it. So you're like, sure, I'll plant some trees, I think
Yeah.
is what's going on.
No,
Like I
I
feel
can
like
see
that,
that. I can
yeah.
see being moral, being like, hey, if we like, do good things like, recycle and like compost and shit, it could help, your future generations. And not doing it is fucking them over. So the moral thing to do is to do more of the individual things as much as you can, right? I can see that
Mhm.
being like that being like like a narrative that people could buy.
Yeah, I wonder
Um
what pluralistic ignorance is and why it never works.
Yeah. Well, the nice
Um,
thing is that most of these work, right? Besides the pluralistic ignorance, most of those are above the if we did nothing, right?
yeah.
And my favorite exhibit in the MIT museum that explains this is the one where they have like a computer screen and with like a bunch of toggles, and they're like, what if we did these things? Will it like reduce the temperature
Oh
that
yeah.
Earth will be at in
Yeah.
20 years or something like that? And it
You can
really
play with it online too.
yeah, let's you can we can I think we put it on before, but we can like link it again. But the nice thing about it is that it really exemplifies why it's important to do more than one thing. Like you can't just plant trees and be like, yeah, we're fine. Like you have to do all the different components need to be done. Like, they don't need to be done 100%, but they need to be done, right? Like we need to reduce, our reliance on fossil fuels. We need to reduce like every component. Like if we reduce a little bit in every single like all the different possibilities, like there was no golden, what's it called, silver bullet where you could solve it by
Yeah, no
stopping
silver
one thing.
bullet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really needed to like dial every little thing a little bit at a time, and which means
I feel like adding like a really high carbon tax was like pretty like the
yeah, that one
closest
did.
we came
Yeah, but
to
on
like
its
having a
own it
silver
wasn't
bullet.
enough, right? Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was really cool. It was
But
really
like
cool to see
almost.
the
Yeah.
policy like fix it, and I was just like, oh, so if you make things expensive people will respond. I was like, yeah, that
Yeah,
works.
like which is like Simon again, which is like how capitalism is like supposed to work, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah.
This is
um
this is also like a interesting way to like see which of your friends are kind of sociopaths because like I was doing it with some of my lab mates and like I'm like, oh, check out this thing, and then she's immediately like, what if we cut the population in half?
It's like reduced population that fixes it.
Yeah. Like I'm just like that was your first choice? Okay.
um oh, hey, we have a new person that wants to be on our Discord. Sure.
I think yeah, we don't really have a Discord, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
we
we can
tried that
add
for a
you.
bit and then we stuck with
Um,
Restream, but happy to have you again. We
yeah.
also post, that we're coming on
Mhm.
weekly,
Yep,
so
we
hopefully
have
that helps.
Twitter. Um,
Yeah.
I can
Blue Sky and
yep,
yeah.
yeah. But anyway,
uh
that's super interesting. So basically making people feel bad about the climate is not helpful. Is the
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
it's, and
and
it's a
the ending of our date as with us just both be like sat there being shocked and sad. And then we just looked at each other and was like, maybe we need to take a break from these nature documentaries. Uh,
Oh, that sounds like kind of a bummer date.
I know. We were so excited because like, it was like oceans, right? And we're like cool
Mhm.
animals, like cool, and they did have those. They had beautifully shot animals, beautifully shot oceans, and then like just like the message, I was just like, oh, David Attenborough, I love you,
And
man,
it,
but like that was so sad.
yeah, it is interesting. So I guess like what this paper would imply is that like it's arguably better for ocean conservation to just be like, hey, this is cool and important, right? And not just be
Yeah.
like, hey, we're
Well, it's
just
also like up against, our, I guess, like the belief that we most of us have that like just educating as many people as possible will lead to more rational, better decision making, and like we'll do better things.
Mhm,
um but like actually sometimes the style of delivery matters a lot, and like how
mhm.
important the actual action of doing science communication matters so much more. Do you know what I mean? Like it has a huge impact. It's not just like here are the facts. Like not everyone is a scientist like us who are like give us the data, show us the data, I'll be convinced just by data. Like a lot of people are not like that, and we can't assume that giving people a bunch of data on graphs and play. Do you know what I mean? Like we can't just
Uh-huh.
communicate like
Yeah.
that. We have to communicate with their language, which means learning to use Twitter and Instagram and TikToks or whatever. Like we actually have to use their language and convert it into a way that people understand, which is a active goal of mine, ours. like
Yeah.
to be able to communicate in that way. And that's actually why we have a live chat version of the stream. It's because we want to interact with people in real time and answer questions and tell them we don't know, and like really emphasize like what science means to us. Like it's not a static rule list. It's like we learn things in grade school, like I don't know, Pluto is a planet, and like within 10 years, we're like, actually, we're going to recategorize this to not a planet anymore. And that's the norm in science. It's not like, hey, we were wrong, absolutely, like it was with the information at the time we had, like that was what we decided would be the best explanation. And as we collect new data, things will change. And it really freaks people out. Like, for example, during the pandemic, at the beginning they're like, you don't need masks, it'll be fine. And then suddenly they're like, actually, everyone should be wearing masks. And like like when scientists tell politicians, be like, hey, like tell people to wear masks now and social distance. And they're like, well, literally last week you told us we didn't need to do that. Like, which one should we believe? And you're like, well, you should believe the most recent one because now we have more information and we've collected. And that's
Yeah.
natural for science, right? Like it's natural for us to
Hmm.
make new discoveries, make new additions to the information pool, and then make a decision about what we think it means now with the information we have currently. So you need to get comfortable with, science or data that's not like set in stone, like marked. And I feel like physics is better at this than we are, than biological
I
sciences,
hmm.
right? Like we learned these laws in physics class and then it's like the same. Hasn't changed. Um
I mean, it kind of has. I mean, things have changed. I mean, I think they're just things that are just less relevant to people. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
or
I
it's
think
like
like
matured more. Like the field has matured more than biological sciences has. Like they've had years, more years to develop and make discoveries.
I mean, honestly, like I think that you see the same thing like with climate change, which is really a branch of physics. It's like when it's
That's true.
something that is relevant to people's lives, you see the same kind of confusion where it's like, okay, I mean, like the projections of climate change have changed from like 1990s to now, so therefore, like, how do we know that we can trust any of these people? Um, and honestly, I think it's just like that, like most people don't really care whether Pluto is a planet or not. Um, like it doesn't really affect people's lives in the way that like biological and like psychological, like whether Pluto is a planet is just something that people just feel less don't have a moral sense of in the same way of like how many genders are there for some reason.
Yeah, I do feel sometimes like we have to dumb it down to get it across quickly. But then if
Yeah.
we don't dumb it down, we give too much details, then people can like in the nuance of details, they can get confused by the interpretation of the data, which is why like
Yeah.
open this is a tug of war that I have with my science a lot. I'm like, I really want it to be open science and available for all scientists to analyze. But then I also don't want people to misinterpret the data because they don't understand
Uh-huh.
how it's collected and what it means when you collect a particular. Do you know what I mean? Like it's important,
Right.
like both components to be there, and it is a balance that every scientist makes.
And I think actually, so this kind of gets into the paper that I was reading too, or one of the papers I was reading, which was like, they kind of start with this question, which is like, okay, so is the reason that that people get these wrong just because they don't really have the full picture? Like they don't understand like, okay, we like Pluto is actually a dwarf planet because we started finding all these other objects in the Oort cloud that we didn't know about before. This like, is that the reason that like people are resistant to the idea of Pluto not being a planet, or is it because kind of there's some other reason? And so traditionally, the way science communication has been done is there's this idea that it's like, okay, when people are making bad decisions about things or not understanding things, it's just because they don't have the right information. I found this really interesting kind of pseudo experiment that suggests why this is not the case. So this traditional model is called the information deficit model of science communication. The idea is like, okay, when people struggle with this, it's because they they have a deficit of information. Um, and
And to fix it,
a
you just have
really
to give
good,
them the information.
yeah, exactly. And then you give them more information, it gets fixed. And so this really interesting experiment was, so the National Science Foundation does some like public pooling of science knowledge. And what they found is that at some point in the 2000s, less than half, 45% of Americans agreed that humans evolved from other species. But when a qualifier was added, according to the theory of evolution, 72% of Americans correctly answered that humans evolved from other species. And they say, therefore, knowledge alone does not explain public opinions with regard to science. And so I thought this was super interesting. It's like actually like the majority of people know what the theory of evolution says and they can explain it to some extent. They just don't think that that is actually what's going on. And so they say it's not about them not having the information mostly. Um, it's about them having other kind of cultural attitudes and cognitive biases and things like that that influence what you decide is true.
I was gonna say those are pretty
Um,
good numbers, actually. I was like,
yeah,
how many people believed it once you add it according to evolution, after you added that phrase?
72%. Yeah.
72 is more higher than I thought would
But
think.
it's like, but that is just saying like, okay, do people know what the theory of evolution says? But only 45% think that humans actually evolved from other species.
Oh, okay. That's where I thought our line was. I was just
Yeah.
like, I thought we were
And it's
at
like,
the point where people we were around 50%. And indeed I
yeah,
was.
but it's interesting. So it's like of the Americans who know what the theory of evolution is, only like a bit more than half of them actually think that it is true. And so
Yep.
basically this less than half of Americans agree that humans evolved from other species is much less than in other countries. And so traditionally the way of thinking about it is has been it's a deficit in scientific literacy. People don't like just they haven't been taught about evolution. But what they argued from this is that it's not a deficit in scientific literacy. It's kind of a like a clash with culture and kind of cognitive biases that people have from religion that
Yep.
explains why.
I wonder
Um,
if I mean, I did a minor in biological anthropology, so that's
mhm.
quite convincing. But
Uh-huh.
I wasn't given that information as a high schooler. I wonder if that would help. Like I think at some point there was like Lucy, the Australopithecine, like Australopithecus, right? Like at some point we had like, here we discovered Lucy. But like we didn't have all the different versions of pre-humans like that I had to memorize and draw their skulls. Do you know what I mean? Like you didn't have to do
Mhm.
that in high school or middle school or whenever you're taught um evolution in high school biology, like or social biology. I don't know whatever class you're supposed to learn it in school. Like maybe if we were actually taught that, then people would be like, yeah, obvious. Like they would make the obvious leap.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was wondering is like, okay, I mean, one way that you could think about this is that that the information deficit model is right. And it's like, okay, if you did a better job of teaching people about evolution and you had classes that like really explained like why evolution is like the only model that makes all these different things in biology make sense, then maybe people would be more like, okay, this is
Yeah.
why.
Or maybe this is like a way to teach history better. To be like, hey, like in this year we did made this discovery. Like we did not discover all the different prehumans species in like linear order, right? Like we learned about these suddenly and we're still learning about them now and then we're starting to chain them together into like a timeline. But it might be more exciting. Like I feel like it's more convincing to people if we told them that hey, like these like prehumans or the humans were all over the planet, like all over different parts of the planet. And like this group found it from France, this group was German, this group was American. They all found this, things that, do you know what I mean, that like came together and added to the story.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like
I
this
mean,
one
I think
group
that's
somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, and kind of Sprudge is kind of making this point too. It's like, okay, maybe if we just taught it differently. But I think the interesting part they mention here is that kind of the American acceptance of of evolution is like so much lower than in other countries. And it's like it seems weird to think that we are just kind of worse at teaching about evolution.
And not
Um,
that we have like a really strong religious presence that
Right, like the argument that they're making is like, okay, it's probably not that American teachers are uniquely bad. Like
that's
although
fair.
now that I say that, I mean, what would be really interesting to do would be to look at that statistic in states where kind of like they don't have any restrictions on teaching about like evolution, because I think one of the questions would be like, okay, does this show up mostly in states where it's like, okay, you have to present like creationism too, or people tend to do that. Like there are states where like there are policies that interfere with the teaching of evolution, and that is kind of a uniquely American thing. So like I think it's possible there's an education policy thing too. But like if we assume that's not true, and even in states where it's kind of like evolution is taught the same, what they're arguing is like evolution is basically taught the same way here as it is in everywhere else, but people don't believe in it because of other cultural factors.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
and I think that's like, so if that's right, I feel like that is a trickier science communication problem to solve.
Yeah.
Um, and um, they honestly they don't actually really give like many solutions in this paper that I was reading. Like they basically say like because of these, we kind of think it's not an information deficit, and it's more related to the fact that people have cognitive biases.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that like that they're just I guess then it's just like, okay, I guess we should try and like figure out how to make people not have those. It's like not a very like
Yeah. I
straightforward
am
thing.
encouraged by, I guess, like the flat earther movement. Like I'm encouraged by
Mhm.
their experimental, like their openness to do experiments. Like
Like so
I
this is like the behind the curve documentary.
yeah, like I'm encouraged that these people are like, okay, we think this is, their hypothesis is here, and they're like redoing all these like ancient experiments. Um, and sometimes they get this, they disprove that the world is flat, and then they're
Mhm.
just sat there being like, what? It must be my machines, it must be the instruments, and it must be. And I was just sat there, and I was like, like that is kind of, you're just kind of redoing what scientists have done
Mhm.
before you. Like, I'm sure the first explanation of this, humans, 500 years ago, were like, yeah, wait, hold up. Are my measurements incorrect? And we can see this happen a lot, and I'm actually encouraged by it. Like, there's this like
Mhm.
curiosity spirit. Like, I was reading about the raw milk people who are like
Uh-huh.
dying of E. coli, and they're like, "What if we just boiled the milk enough to kill the bacteria, and then we'll be fine?" And I was just sat there, and I was just like, "Well, sure, like you can do pasteurization. You can just
Mhm.
reinvent pasteurization, which was invented a while ago, and then like by the way, all the grocery store milk has been pasteurized. Like
Yeah.
they'll just redo
I'm
things
like,
like that."
okay, so like I think what's interesting is like so when you texted that to me like the first time I was like this is just hilarious. But actually okay, like reading after I read these things about science communication, it actually makes a lot of sense to, and maybe this is like a model for how you do it, because it's like I think like what the people who are buying raw milk really like is like it's a really a culturally like driven decision. It's often like it's a local thing, it's supporting the local economy. It's really there's a very high value of kind of autonomy, and that kind of like exactly how the thing is produced, and like there isn't any stuff that's being done to it. And like so to some extent like I think this is also a really good model of like, okay, how do you do it beyond the deficit model? Is like you're saying like Like you can tell people like, okay, you can buy the non-pasteurized milk, just boil it first.
Yeah.
Um,
And
like
maybe
I
we
mean,
should
honestly,
have
like I think that's great. Like that, and it's really interesting then that people are doing it because now like they actually do understand like there's dangerous bacteria and bird flu viruses in it, and you can kill them with heat, but you're kind of giving this consistent with their values. Um, like I think that's great, honestly, now. Like I'm just like, yeah, that we should tell people to do that,
yeah,
honestly.
I
Like,
was gonna say, like, instead of what's it called, like, being here being like, oh, these idiots, they didn't know about pasteurization, we should just
yeah.
be like, actually, congratulations, here you go, here's
Like we're like,
exactly what you
yeah,
did,
that
bring it
works.
to this
Like,
temperature for 30 minutes
yeah.
and then you're good. Like, um
I mean, like it's gonna make your milk taste disgusting, but the like
yeah.
that's what you want. Like,
Yeah, like if you want to do it from scratch, sure. Here
right.
here here are the
Mhm.
instructions, which is kind of nice. I watch so my partner and I also really like watching YouTube videos where people make things from we find it
Mhm.
really like amusing. Like they'll be like, here's a Twinkie, like make it from scratch, start from like growing the wheat. and
Yeah.
and like, milling it and then like, like dehusking
Or
it,
like that
convert
podcast we listened to where the guy tried to make a toaster from scratch.
correct. Ribeye
Oh,
says to please
Ribeye
recommend the
Piece's
channel.
channel recommendation, please.
Uh,
You know what that one
there's so many.
is?
Well,
Yeah.
the toaster one was on
That was on like Freakonomics, I think.
it was on
Um,
Freakonomics. It might be
yeah, he
Freakonomics
actually,
or Gastropub. I forget. Maybe it's Freakonomics. It's like how to make a single toaster from scratch.
yeah, the
And she
guy,
wanted food, right?
yeah, the toaster guy, like he has a whole book about it in the website and stuff. So I'll link that. Um, but yeah, so you were saying like, okay, you
Like
like kind of
I
the
like
making
knowing
things from
like how
scratch.
things are made like one time.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like I will
Yeah.
make acorn flour. Like I will go collect the acorns and like hull them, like leach them in water, get out the tans. I'll do it one time and they'll be like, cool, I saw all the processes. I saw how much work it was to do it. Now I'm gonna go buy industrial acorn
Hmm.
flour and be like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Then
they
you're
already
like,
did this with
okay,
the
I
machine. Got it.
understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that is the way to teach science. Like not
Hmm.
teach science, but like to get everyone kind of on board with science a little bit more if they got to do the labs. Like this would be the equivalent of a lab, right? Like you would go and like
Yeah. Yeah.
collect the nuts and do like have these like online tutorials and how to do it, and then like they can see with their own eyeballs, hey, like this went wrong, like it tastes bitter still, oh there's probably still
Yeah.
tannins, let me go back and like leach it longer. Like you can do all these steps until you finally get your like 2 teaspoons of acorn flour. And then, but like you would have that mental process of knowing all the parts that happened before, and then you would feel a lot better about going to the shop and buying a machine made
Hmm.
bag of flour in the future.
Yeah.
um
And like, I mean, I think to me, I mean, I think that's a thing, but I think the other part is kind of like trying to understand like when people aren't understanding something. And this is really more like, okay, when it's like you're trying to get people to do some action, like getting vaccinated. It's like, I think also just trying to like understand like why are they not doing it? And is it like can we find an alternate solution to it? Like a lot
Yeah,
of people are
I
very
feel like
skeptical of mRNA vaccines, and I
I was
think
gonna say the vaccines have this like double-edged sword. So like it worked really
Mhm,
well when it was rolled out by the government, when everyone trusted the government because they had just came off these wins
mhm,
with like the FDA and like the food and stuff. And so people are like, hey, we're gonna vaccinate all your children so they don't get this disease. And people are watching kids die left and right of these diseases. So they're like, of course, give us the shots, give us the polio on sugar cubes, like do it. But
mhm.
now, where we don't see that every day, we don't see children dropping left and right down from diseases. Now it's really hard to convince because they don't see the actual result of not having these. Do you know what I mean? Like people are
I
like,
mean, I don't know if I totally buy that because we did see the actual results of that. Like 5 years ago. Like the prediction of that would be that like everyone is super into vaccines now, and that is definitely not true.
There's also like a branding issue. Like I feel
Mhm.
like we're like here's this big company that's gonna make it for us and it's gonna be everywhere. Like I was joking this with you the other day. I was like, if they had just said we're
Mhm.
microdosing viruses, people might actually
Yeah,
take it. Like, because it kind of is, right? You're taking an
yeah,
attenuated
yeah.
virus, you're microdosing it, and like getting your body ready, like prepared, and like it has already made the antibodies against that particular antigen before. Like that kind of is what like the whole concept of like giving a small dose of something.
It's like, yeah, it's like, it's so just like as an aside, it's very weird to me that like a lot of the biggest opponents of vaccination are like naturopathic doctors who are like, modern medicine is bad. We just need to like strengthen your immune system and then you will be able to fight off any disease. And it's like, and then we're like, okay, we made this vaccine that strengthens your immune system so you can fight off the disease. And they're like, wait, no, that's bad too. Like that's literally what the vaccine does. But anyway,
But
like
if we
it's
had
the most
rebranded it, yeah.
right. Yeah. It's like the most natural like medical treatment we have, to be honest. But I also think there's this other part of it, which is like, so for example, we know that a lot of people, like when you think about like, okay, why are people not doing it? Like one big thing is like a lot of people are scared of the mRNA technology.
Yeah,
Um, it
because
seems
it's
like
new.
that it's
Yeah.
just a thing that people are scared of. And I think the problem with our science communication is often that we just try to explain to people kind of like why those concerns are not like really scientifically valid. And I think that doesn't work that well. Like maybe what we should be doing is like just having other vaccine options available for people and promoting them. And we did that a little bit with the Novavax vaccine. It was rolled out kind of slowly, so we didn't do it great, but and
Yeah.
it's just there hasn't really been that like coordinated promotion of it. But I feel like that would work a lot better. It's like if people like, I don't want to get an mRNA vaccine, we say like, okay, fine, get this Sinopharm vaccine. It's an inactivated virus. It's like the same thing that we've used for polio for 50 years. Like I feel like that would work better, like similar to the raw milk.
Yeah. And instead of just telling people like, no, actually here's all the
Instead
safety
of telling people like, no, here's why mRNA is actually good. It's just like you accept that they are going to be scared of it for like a lot of reasons that aren't actually related to like their knowledge of mRNA, but more about like their opinions about like how clinical trials work and like corruption and stuff. And he's like,
no.
okay, well, here's one that's been made with the same technology we've been using for 50 years. How about this one?
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like that actually. So even within the scientific community, like even in my own lab, there's people that have like a
mhm,
range of like, I would say like being
mhm,
conservative. Like conservative people are like, this has been used for like 50 years. This is what we're building off of,
mhm,
and we make like a little increment. So, and then there's people who
mhm.
are like, let's throw like the kitchen sink at it, like forget all the preconceived notions. And most scientists land somewhere in the range, and that
On
type
that
of person,
spectrum.
yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere on that spectrum. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of on, most people are somewhere in the middle. um but you'll see very good scientists, really famous people who've done really good work, be super conservative, right? They'll be like, show me
Mhm.
like 30 years of data. I want to see like this doesn't like mess with reproduction 20 years down the line. Well,
Right.
then you get then you get the other vaccine. You get the one that's made in the chicken egg. That's like that they have to incubate for like, a month until it's ready. But it exists. We can do it. Like maybe this is like a market that it could be filled by corporations. So like let's just
Mhm.
use like old technology that's old and trusted, tried and true, and maybe not as efficient, maybe not as like flashy and amazing, but we'll do the trick and maybe it'll freak less people out and like save more people. And actually this is a common thing in medicine. So I was talking to my partner about this, and he says that sometimes he will actually prescribe medication that is not the most like has like the peak effect, but will give the one that has better compliance. So like the one that could have
Mhm.
peak effect, for example, is like you gotta take it 3 times a day after a meal, and you gotta eat it like 4 hours apart. And then like the
Yeah,
other one that has like medium effect, but is better compliance is like one a day beginning of the day. Like
yeah,
that has much higher compliance, right? So it's kind of like applying that to vaccines and other kinds of medication where
right.
the higher compliance like the alternative is not taking the medication at all, right? Or not taking vaccines, which
Yeah,
is bad. But like getting the less perfect version that you will take
it's
because it's
really it's
once a
like a
day.
harm
Yeah.
reduction approach. Like it's
Yeah.
it's saying like, okay, this person is not going to do what I think is the optimal thing, but we can do give them this thing that is going to reduce their risk of getting sick by a lot. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I like that approach. And I think it's also not just about like the age of the thing. Like
Yeah.
but also like I'm pretty active in the biohacking community, and I think one of the really interesting things is that like you see a lot of people doing stuff where they're like it's stuff that would really not be medically recommended. And actually, I think a lot of medical people and medical researchers would be like, don't do that. That is a bad idea. Like you have people kind of like self-prescribing themselves, for example, like this random opiate to treat their depressive symptoms. And I think like but the weird thing is that like when you really look at it, when you like really talk to the people, what you often see, and like I have a friend like this person actually just had extremely traumatic experiences in the medical system, and he tried to go to a psychiatrist. He was like, I don't like this. I feel like I'm not in control, and just like I get interrogated about this, and it was like giving him panic attacks. So what he does is he takes St. John's wort, which is acts like an antidepressant. It's like an okay-ish antidepressant. It has a ton of drug interactions that like makes you sunburned. Like no one would really recommend it as like the best drug, but it is like it's like
It's a
okay,
tea.
it's
Yeah.
like he'll take this because it's something that he can buy from the internet for himself, and like it satisfies that need to have control that is really important to him as someone who's had this like medical trauma.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fair. We shouldn't like there's a lot of cases like that where I think the simplistic answer that like when people talk about like the evidence-based approach, they're just like, don't do that. And I think
Yeah.
that's actually not the
I
right
was gonna
answer
say
in
the
many
general
cases.
medical advice for St. John's wort is like don't, especially if you're taking other medications, because they'll interact. And
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
because like it's just because they don't know what will happen. Like a lot of times like there's not
right.
enough people to study to like cross like you use this drug and this drug like together, and it crosses like it clearly does
Right.
something because it's interacting
And
with
like,
other things.
if you're, yeah, and like, if you're a psychiatrist, like, this is, according to the criteria that like psychiatrists use, is like a pretty shitty drug. Like,
Yeah.
it just mechanistically, it induces a lot of liver enzymes. So it has a lot of potential interactions with stuff. It's like not the first line drug that you would recommend for anything,
Yeah.
but I think medically. But if you understand the cultural context, then you're like, okay, actually, maybe this really is the best thing for this person to be on.
Yeah. There is a book that I learned that I read. I'm trying to find it's like a really good um cheating people. I'm gonna find I will find the book real soon. Medical uh wow. Hold on. I'm googling it right now live. um culture.
A Darmidon.
Yeah, no, there was
Okay.
like a book
Um,
that they taught that I had to read about like um treating indigenous people. And they teach it
was it
in
Crazy Like Us or was it a
no, it
different
wasn't Crazy Like Us. It had it was a blue book with like a child in the cover. This is so hard to Google without like
one?
finding
Try
um
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is good at that sort of thing.
Yeah. Book about Treating indigenous people of different cultures. Goodness.
You're like, it's blue and it has a picture of a kid on it.
I
Um,
know. I know. Ugh. I will find this book. It is gonna
but
bother
yeah, let
me.
me see what else did we want. What else
Yeah.
did we have on our docket for today?
Yeah. No, I just remembered.
Uh,
How are we today? Hey, gang. Hello, D
Pretty good.
Ramadan.
Yeah,
Yeah, we are looking for. I'm looking for this book. Uh,
yeah.
uh,
I was just, and so I think another thing, I mean, kind of talking about like when we talk about like medical advice, there's this really interesting, like one thing I was talking about is like, yeah, I think like so I was talking about this with Ruby about kind of male contraception and how there's kind of this disconnect in the values of like the medical community sometimes versus like the people who are actually using it. So it's extremely difficult to get medical contraception approved because the medical risk assessment model is like, okay, well, men can't get pregnant, so therefore they don't really have any benefit from taking it. So therefore, like the level of acceptable risk to weigh against the benefit is very little. And so there's a lot of things that have kind of failed because of some side effects. And so that's why one of the big reasons why we don't have any approved male birth control methods. The problem with that, of course, is that um is that like that there are risks. Clearly they're not medical risks in the way that like the FDA thinks about them, but like when you actually ask men, they're like, yeah, of course I'm worried about like unplanned pregnancy for all sorts of reasons. Like it clearly is a risk to them, to the point where people have actually like, especially in France, started making like DIY male birth control things. Like,
oh,
and actually, I mean, it's like we can. This is a whole other rabbit hole I went down. It's super interesting. It basically relies on like testicular heating, and it seems quite promising. But anyway, it's like people like it's like the risk is high enough that people are willing to like medically experiment on themselves. And then on the other hand, the FDA is like, there isn't a risk to men from pregnancy, and I'm just like, okay. And then everyone basically is like, what are these people talking about? Like that's, then they kind of lose the trust of the community, right? Because it's clear that like these people who are talking about the risks and benefits just don't really understand your values or your situation.
I found the book. Sorry,
Oh,
I was
yay.
googling this
Yeah.
book. It's called "The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down." Let
Oh,
me
I
make
think I've
sure
heard of that. Yeah.
images. And is the book cover blue? The book cover is not even blue. Oh, it is blue.
Oh.
Okay, the
Does it have a
photo
picture of a child on it?
it does. The child has a blue background.
Ah, uh-huh.
Oh, wow. Okay, so my brain was, like, really looking for this book. I had to read this book in school. And actually, I think
Hmm.
it's assigned, in medical school, actually. Um,
And so it's
like,
about treating indigenous people.
yeah, it's about, treating the Hmong people, and, like, how
Hmm.
their,
Hmm.
culture and customs and history can really alter the like how you approach it with Western medicine, like how it could like conflict. And it talks about a lot of things, like for example, like they'll take herbs and stuff, and how you approach that and how to do it. I
Hmm.
recommend
Hmm.
it. It's a good book.
Yeah.
Um, it talks about so like the child. The reason I read it is because I'm in like a medical anthropology course, and I'm a neuroscientist, and it talked about some a Hmong child with like seizures. So like clearly a neuroscience field, but
Hmm.
like how they approached it with anti-seizure medication, like how do you tell, like, how to do it the right way, and like how you can get compliance to work. So for example, like the Hmong people don't track time with clocks,
Hmm.
so you can't tell them take it at the top of the hour every 6 hours. That's not gonna mean anything.
You can't really, okay, take this every 6 hours or like you're gonna have a seizure because.
Yeah, so they'll, you had to like alter the way, and it was
Mhm,
done really elegantly. Like basically had like flashcards with like, "Hey, sun up, sun up, do
mhm.
this, sun
Oh,
down," and,
interesting.
like different ways to like in just like communicate with different patients, and it really
Yeah.
drives in the point that like you can't treat the whole world, all the humans on this planet,
The same.
like the
Yeah.
same way and be like, here, let me show you the data. And like for us, the population that works for our scientists show us the data.
Yeah.
But the population that, like, even our parents, like, you can't just show them the data, right? Like they need other convincing, other styles of convincing, and other styles of communication, which we should work on as scientists. Because for us, we're like, yeah, obviously, here's the data, right? Like we need to be better at learning the other styles, or we just need to make partnerships with like people who are really good at communicating in that way and have trusting relationships with them where they can like interpret it for us in a way that's
Yeah. And I do think, I mean, I think one thing that's going on is like, I mean, all of this we're talking about basically like, okay, how do you use science communication to get people to do something, like to get vaccinated or to support climate policy? And I mean, I feel like the other part of it that a lot of scientists have is just like, they're like, okay, people should just kind of understand like why the scientific method works and like what bacteria are. And like I think that is like that's the part that we're like not really talking about here is like is that like we're talking about, okay, here's how you get people to do these things that are healthy. And I feel like some people would also say like, okay, but that doesn't address the question of just like it's important that people understand, for example, that humans evolved from other animals and that they believe it. And like, I mean, okay, maybe the conclusion is like, okay, maybe that understanding isn't that important. Like maybe we should say like, okay, people can believe whatever they want as long as they're not like going around spreading diseases. Like I think that's like a pretty good take, honestly. But like, um,
yeah, that's fair. I suppose
yeah,
it's okay to have a non-zero number of people being like, evolution doesn't exist if it doesn't harm people and they're doing things that are beneficial to society instead, I suppose.
it
Like
like
our
it
goal
feels
can't be this
culturally weird to
I know
me.
it feels
Like
weird to
that,
us. No, because
yeah,
that's the equivalent of taking not the perfect drug, right? Like that's taking the compromised drug where that has higher compliance. Like
yeah.
it's weird
Like
to us
I
to be
mean,
like, make this decision not because it's rational, like make this slightly less good decision because it makes you feel it feels better for you by vibes.
right, yeah. I mean, I think it's also, I mean, I think it is like a cultural thing. It's like, okay, everyone sort of wants everyone else to kind of think about the world the same way they do. And I think that's like where that discomfort comes
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, and maybe we have to be okay with it. We have to be
Yeah,
okay with people making the right decisions because of vibes.
for weird
Like,
reasons.
yeah, or like a weird reason. Um,
Yeah.
because like, you know what? Honestly, if these people decide that they want to drink raw milk and boil it at home and just repasteurize all the time, like at least they're not killing their children. I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. They
Yeah.
can do extra work and not buy already pre-pasteurized milk from the grocery store and pasteurize it
Right.
themselves at
Like
home.
honestly, I'm
I'm okay with
fine
that.
with that. Like yeah, I think I'm thriving in this live-based economy. I think a really interesting example of that is like organic food, where it's like a lot of, I think that's one of these cases where like this discussion really comes out because a lot of food scientists are like just kind of upset by the existence of organic food because it's often perceived as like healthier. And it's this weird, I think like the most interesting take that I've heard from it from someone who had kind of like talked to a lot of people on both sides of this debate is like he was like fundamentally this is a moral issue, like, and like morals are always kind of arbitrary, and it's like, okay, if you decide that your morals are that like you want to buy things that are organic, like that is a legitimate decision to make. um
No.
we
Um,
should not like we should be really careful to like tell people about the health effects of that and to be like, hey, by the way, like organic, like organic sprouts are actually super dangerous because of the way like that they're fertilized and like they give you tons of E. coli. But maybe we should also like work to make that at a process level just like not happen rather than just trying to convince everyone not to eat the organic sprouts.
Yeah, because at this point, organic has become a shorthand for like healthier, like more grassroots grown with
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
natural pesticides, which oftentimes are neurotoxins in itself. Like that's what
Yeah,
bugs
yeah.
respond to. Like, um,
Like I think that's what bothers the scientists is that people will be like, these organic foods like have more nutrients in them, and then like you get into this discussion about it, and
yeah.
like,
But I mean, these are like there's
yeah,
so many decisions to
mhm,
make. Like there, if you
yeah,
like dug into every single thing, like you would have decision anxiety when you walk into a grocery store. I think
right,
that's the
yeah,
crazy part. Like people would lose their
exactly, yeah,
minds if they had to figure out like, wait, can I have the organic kale or should I eat the regular kale? Should I get the organic corn or should I get the regular corn? Like this is too much for them. And they're like,
right, and
well,
that's like,
it costs
yeah,
more, therefore it must be better. Let's just order like let's just pay
mhm,
for that and go get on with their day. Um
right.
I think that's what frustrates scientists, but we should let it go.
Yeah, I mean, we do it too, though. I mean, we're like, okay, what antibody should we use for this experiment? And we're like, oh, we've had good luck with the ones like from this company, so let's buy it from this company. Like,
That's true. That is so true. We do it all the time.
yeah,
As
like
scientists, we're like,
everyone uses these kinds of heuristics, and I think what's interesting is going on is like some people have like this heuristic that like, okay, Monsanto is evil, and then like I think the way to combat that is not to like, you can point out to people that like, okay, they haven't done anything that's or like their food isn't actually that dangerous, even if they did develop some chemical weapons, and also like Monsanto doesn't exist as a company anymore. But like that doesn't really work. Like the problem
yeah,
is that you're trying to argue with like this perception of trust that
yeah.
for
I
various
mean,
reasons they don't have. And then so the question that I feel like it really comes back to like, what do you want the people to do? And like, how do you make like, assuming that people have different attitudes about stuff, how do you make sure that they can like do that safely and healthily?
yeah. The scary part is that like we as science communicators want the world to be better and want it better for
Mhm.
for humans in general.
Yeah.
The scary part is when it's not humans that are making these decisions. What if it's a big company that's like, "Hey, like I really want you to buy my blank." And they're doing the propaganda and like
Hmm.
or what if it's like AI whose
That's true.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
sole existence like I think maybe we need to do another AI episode on how it influences science communication because I would argue that even in my lab right now a lot of people ask large language models things just because it's faster than to Google. Yes, more
Your vibe
AI.
is yes, more AI. And also organic sea salt. Yeah, you can also get non-GMO salt. Like salt that is specifically sold as non-GMO. And I'm just like,
uh
I
I
kind of
I have a
admire the marketer who figured that out. But
I have a contentious relationship with AI as well.
yeah.
Nathan has heard me like yell about the software on a
Like
microscope that
people
had AI.
using, yeah. Yeah.
I was so angry.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
like, I mean, there's the weird, like, I had a student who was like doing a power analysis. I was like, oh, you should do a power analysis for this experiment. And they just go and like, they just like, um, put it, they just like ask ChatGPT for a power analysis. And then I get it. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? Like, this. Um, yeah,
wait,
we
how
just
do we
decided it
offend a
kind of,
chemist with
I
non-GMO
think just
salt?
by mentioning the existence of non-GMO salt.
Ah,
Yeah. Um, I think
uh,
my other favorite salt story, and so like I have friends who are food scientists and they get infuriated by this sort of thing and like send it to me. Is why I know all these. But I think there was like this pink Himalayan salt, and they're like, this salt is exceptionally pure, and that's why it's pink. And this is what the package says. Wait, but isn't it pink because there's other stuff
Minerals in it, yeah.
in it? Anyway,
That is,
but I was like going back to your point about the manipulation. I think that's super interesting actually, because like um I mean, we started this thinking about like, okay, have like did like with global warming and COVID and all, have we failed at science communication? And like the other thing that I think is important to point out is a lot of these things were like actively sabotaged. Like with global warming, we know that kind of like there's big lobbying groups that have spent probably billions of dollars at this point specifically just make people confused about it.
yeah,
Um,
that was
with
their goal.
COVID, there were also similar groups that were just heavily invested in making people scared of vaccines. And like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think we can't ignore the fact that like part of this is cultural attitudes, but part of it is like people actively like those are also being actively created to further people's agendas too.
yeah, like because their companies, that's their
Hmm.
bottom line, right? Like they're
Yeah,
they want you to use fossil fuels. Like they want you to
like
be reliant on
yeah.
them and be okay with it. And like I remember I was reading an article about the design of stoves
Hmm.
in American homes, and
Hmm.
like how when it switched from gas to electrical, they had to like have this full campaign about how like gas food is better, like gas
It
cooked
like
food.
tastes better. Yeah.
Yeah, it tastes better, better stove. Like it's like the whole thing, and I was sat there and I was just like, oh well, I have a gas stove, and I actually do prefer a gas stove. Where does this preference come from? Like
Wow, that's wild.
I
Yeah.
know, and I was
Yeah.
just sad. Like
Uh-huh.
every like little decision you make, like you think you made it from
Yeah.
your own,
You're like,
and
where
then
does
and
it?
then you sit back
Yeah.
and you're like, are we just being influenced by big oil, big
Right. Yeah.
big whatever company at all times? Yeah,
Hmm. It is scary. Like we were talking about the like, okay, there's legitimate reasons why some people like prefer supplements, but I think like the tricky side of that is that like in the US, the nutritional supplement industry is actually worth more money than all the pharma companies put together. And they've spent an enormous amount of money trying to promote this idea that like, okay, their things are safer and give you more control. And like, I mean, those are things that are kind of objectively untrue in many cases, but they have successfully created this cultural idea. And so it's weird because it's like you want to respect people where they're at, but then also there's this thing where it's like many of these are like actively, like they result from companies actively trying to influence people into something.
yeah. Oh, and it's like taking advantage of our like wants and needs for body autonomy, which is
Yeah.
another
Mhm.
topic I feel very
Yeah.
strongly about. With
Yeah.
that, we're
I mean,
actually out of
honestly,
time. Okay,
yeah.
wait, sorry. Go ahead, Nate. Finish your thought.
Oh, I was gonna say a lot. There's a lot of weird supplements that are actually marketed for chronic pain, and like it is very clearly like it's a market that exists because like our medical system is so bad at dealing with chronic pain. So it just takes advantage of people's like pain and need for to not be in pain. Um, and you're like, this can't be a good way of dealing with it, but like I also don't really blame people who are taking their weird off-label opioid gummies if it's like the only thing that they can get. Like,
Yeah, and honestly, placebo effect is real and it really
hmm.
does work. We can brain a lot of good amount of pain away, which
Yeah, yeah,
like if you're taking a generally recognized as safe grass supplement of I don't know, fish oils or whatever and then, like makes your pain
yeah.
go a little bit away,
I
like
mean, I mean, I'm
great,
talking about things
individualized medicine.
like kratom, which is like they actually are opioids, but they're sold as supplements just because like they haven't got around to scheduling them. Basically, it's like yeah, like there's like they're sold extremely unscrupulously. There's whole like advocacy groups that have been like, this is not addictive. It's not really an opioid, and it's like these groups are clearly hurting people to make profit.
Yeah.
and
Mm,
like taking advantage of the fact that there's a lot of people with untreated pain.
yeah.
At the same time, like it's like, okay, if I was in that position, I would probably use that too. Like,
Yeah. A gaps in science that we can work
yeah.
on.
Wow, that is really like the opposite of a we were supposed to be doing like uplifting like ends to these.
No, I feel like it's uplifting to be like, here is a gap in science that we can work on.
Okay, it was like that like supplement companies are exploiting people to get hooked on opioids, but
Yeah,
okay.
that's worse. Okay,
Um,
how about the stupids can unstupid themselves by learning more things?
yeah.
The fools can be
Yeah,
educated.
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Like in
Yeah,
Everdale, when
that's
you get the fools,
uplifting.
you can
Yeah, yeah.
I mean like the
I
flat
feel like I'm
earthers,
not sure if viewers will understand this metaphor, but it's like,
the raw milk people are boiling their milk now. So
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that
I
is a
think, yeah,
uplifting end.
that is really uplifting, actually. It's like people, we can get people to do the right thing for the wrong reasons. That's uplifting.
Uh,
Yeah,
they
that's a
can
good,
microdose the
yeah,
viruses.
yeah, yeah. Like when you sent that to me, I sent you the task failed successfully.
Yeah, task failed successfully. It is possible. And maybe we can task
Mhm.
fail successfully climate change as well in our lifetimes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, that's a great way to end.
Yeah,
So with
that's
that,
yeah.
see you guys next
Right.
week.
We'll see you.